And I think this presentation by Dr. King is a good one to record. So we're recording right now. I'm going to bring her in and we'll get started. Evening, Dr. King. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We have one of our darlings that's going to start join us a little bit late. So if it's all right with you, we're recording so that we have that. And I thought we might as well record it in case people want to go back and listen to you again at a future date. Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, you can share your screen if you like, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks so much. Let's see if they're sick of me yet, having me 2 weeks in a row here. I hope you guys all had a wonderful holiday. So the purpose of my time with you is to really make sure that you feel comfortable about what will happen when you're doing the internship. But I want to preface that by saying that's a whole semester away. You've got plenty of time. There's absolutely no reason that you need to remember every detail of this presentation. This is kind of the preview so that you have conceptual understanding of it. And then you will have me for class from January through the end of February, when I will be available always to answer questions during class, after class, before class. So it's not that I'm not readily available to make sure that any other questions you have are answered. What'll happen then at the end of your second class in the spring, the end of April, you will end up having a jumpstart session where you will actually meet who your supervisor will be, who will walk you through this journey of your internship. And at that time, they'll do a presentation that's similar to this, a little bit more engaging and less telling at that time. But then you'll have small time groups, a breakout group where you'll be with your supervisor and able to ask even additional questions as part of that. So just making it very clear before we get started, this isn't one and done, but I am really happy to answer questions throughout. So don't feel that you need to wait till the end to ask any questions that you might have. Okay? All right. Quick thumbs up. I've gotcha. All right. All right. Well, we'll get started. So the progression, as you know, of your classes is that you'll now be heading into supervision and instruction. And as part of that, you're going to be looking at your, hang on one second. I'm going to do a quick stop share because I lost you guys and I want to make sure that I'm able to still view you. So do that again. So that the progression, as we were just talking about, is that you now in January and February will have me for supervision and instruction. Then you'll go into school home community 536 with Dr. Escoisa. And then you will start your internship, as you can see in yellow, with the summer of 2026. So technically, it'll start in May and run all summer. Whereas your 610 operations and management class won't start until the end of May. It'll start the week of Memorial Day and will run to mid-July. The
Dr.
the
King, I hate
that
to interrupt, but we don't see anything on our screen.
Oh, well, that's a problem. Let me again get back to screen share and find out why. Well, thank you for saying that, as I'm like showing you slides that you don't see. Not sure what's going on tonight. We'll get back to the slides here. All right, let's try that again. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
And
not
please,
slideshow. Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
yeah, it'll be, but I wanted to make sure you could see it first.
Perfect.
Thanks. All right. So this is what I thought you were seeing. Um, and that is the classes as they'll be progressing for you. You will then start your internship this summer, and it starts with uh, the summer's a great time to start it because you get to start by doing what we call a residency. And the residency is a 2 week period of time where you will work with an administrator. It doesn't have to be your mentor principal that will you'll be working with throughout the internship. It can be an administrator for summer school or an assistant principal, but that's something that you'll be working out with your supervisor and with the mentor that you'll be assigned as a mentor principal for this. So I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But know that's part of the summer is to try to have a 2 week period. If you can't do 2 weeks, there's ways that we can have you working part-time over additional weeks to kind of accumulate the hours. But the ideal is to do a more immersive experience. And the ideal is to do that with your principal mentor where you can really develop that relationship for the school year where you'll know each other well and have an understanding of what you need as part of the internship and how you can handle responsibilities so that you're given plenty of opportunities during the year. But I'll walk you through that. I just want to show you then that you then in the fall will have the 691 class, which is a continuation of the internship, and in the spring, a 692 class, which is the last semester of the internship. And so in each of these semesters, we consider the entire semester to be the internship, but you do not meet every week like you would for a class. You meet once a month for a seminar, and you also each month have a one-on-one with your supervisor, at least one, sometimes more, depending on what your needs might be. And so that supervisor will walk you through all of the requirements of the internship. It's their job to work with you to make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements and the state criteria for the endorsement. So you're never alone on that. And that same supervisor is assigned to you for each of the semesters. So they're with you for the entire year. Meanwhile, you will each of those semesters have an 8 week. So part of the fall and spring semester gets meeting every week. So it'll be very similar to what you just experienced with Dr. Spellman. But the internship is not a second class. It's over the entire semester. And as I mentioned, as a monthly seminar. Questions on that before we? Okay. And then your final semester next summer will be your capstone. The internship would have wrapped up by that. And we have here over in the margins just some other reminders. One of the things that you have to do for licensure is to pass the supervision, the preparation, the training that is done for being able to evaluate teachers. And that supervision training is a 2 day training that is legislated by the state and is offered by a few different parties. We've arranged so that an ROE is offering it in December for 2 days if you want to take that in December. It'll be offered not this week, but next week, and it's not too late to sign up for that if you're interested. But there's also going to be an opportunity in the summer where you can take that training. And the way it's done is that you have one full day of preparation, and the second day there's a review, and you actually take the exam that the state requires for the second half of that day. So that is offered through ROE and through ISB, and I'll give you those links in 535 if you end up not deciding to sign up for the December one. Happy to provide more information on that if you want to get it in now, but otherwise there'll be another opportunity this summer. There'll be a time when you can't even believe that you'll be registering for graduation. It'll be here before you know it. I just want to clarify that when you register for graduation, that's not the same as registering for commencement. Graduation means when your degree will be conferred. And they want to know that ahead of time because the registrar will monitor to make sure that you're on that you're doing all of the things that you would need to do to be able to meet that requirement. And so uh, they will waive the registration fee if you do that by the deadline. Dr. Spellman is wonderful at reminding you, and your advisor should always be reminding you, and the grad office should be reminding you about when that registration deadline is coming up. But that is an opportunity for you to waive the fee by getting it in by that pre-charge deadline. Another way to look at it is that you would end up paying a late fee. It just sounds a lot nicer when we say that you're getting it waived. There's one other additional requirement you have for licensure. That's the taking the content test, similar to the content test you took as an undergrad to get your teaching license. And that is the principal 195 and 196 tests. So that's two different days of testing that you would be doing for that. And we'll talk more in class about how to be well prepared for that 195 and 196 test. We don't usually suggest that you take it till until the last semester of your internship when you're taking school law. But you do want to kind of plan that during that spring semester you would need to have. Usually people are taking it on 2 Saturdays, or you might have a day off of school or a personal day that you're going to use in order to take those tests. It could be taken on the same day, but test fatigue really makes that an unwise decision, because even if you feel good about the content, you just get very tired sitting in front of that screen during that long period of time. And then your commencement is you actually walking across the stage and getting your diploma, and your hooding as part of that. And even though you won't graduate until after the capstone class at the end of the summer, that is something that you would be eligible to participate in the as part of the May ceremony. And then you'd actually get your degree conferred at the end of your capstone that summer. So as part of the internship that we're talking about, you have to have taken the principal's exam, not passed them, but have taken them before the end of the internship. And you do have to pass that supervision training, and we'll talk about why when we look at the requirements. So just a reminder that if you have not already registered in Merlin, you do want to register for the courses. For most of you, those courses have already been preloaded, and looks a little different than this screen. If not, you can search for them as part of this, but you do want to make sure you're registered for 535 and 536 for the spring semester. And I think that they have not yet released the summer, so it may be too early to register for the summer at this time. And so this is kind of just another review so you can kind of see what you're doing with a little typo I see for 610. So I think we've covered that. So to start the internship, we have a requirement of 12 credits, which after the spring semester you'll have met. I do want to point out that the internships courses are not the same number of credits, so the charge will be a little bit less. So your most expensive tuition semester is the spring semester, when you're carrying 8 credits. In the summer, you'll be carrying a 6 credits, 2 for the residency and 4 for your class. And then next fall and next spring, you'll be carrying 7 credits, 4 for the class and then 3 for the internship for each of those semesters. So the sum total of credits for the internship over the course of 3 different semesters is 8 credits, or equivalent to 2 classes. It does make sure that you meet all state of Illinois principal endorsements, but there are a few features that are unique to North Central, and I'll highlight those in a moment. Any questions? All right, so there's kind of a triad to the internship. There's you as the candidate, and then there is your mentor. The state of Illinois requires that the mentor be a principal who's had at least 2 years of successful experience. And how do we determine that? We ask the district to sign off that that principal has 2 years of successful experience, so that they are the ones deciding what qualifies for that. That 2 years of successful principal experience doesn't have to have been in your district,
Okay.
but needs to take place. Okay. All right. And then we want that principal mentor to be committed to you, to meeting with you each week and having a standing meeting so you're not trying to hunt them down. That he or she will give at least 20 to 30 minutes at minimum to meeting with you each week. And we'll also support you by giving you opportunities, leadership opportunities, particularly the ones that are required by the state. In some cases, the principal mentor will have you working closely with other members of the administrative team or other individuals in the district. And that mentorship is perfectly fine. But the principal mentor, the mentor of record for the state of Illinois, must be a principal meeting that criteria. If your principal doesn't meet that criteria, then we would want to look at other principals within your district or that you have close relationships with, and they could serve as your principal mentor, but we'd also want to make sure the administrator in your building is willing to support you by giving you opportunities. There's no situation that you can throw my way that is not similar to something that's happened. We've had principals that got fired in the middle of the year. We have the principal mentor that you were working with took another job. Some have served as principal mentors while they switched buildings in the district and still served as the principal mentor, even though most of the activities were being done in the home building that they were no longer serving in. There's lots of ways that we can work with you to assure that you're in good shape. And you can feel free to share those individual stories or concerns that you might have, and we'll walk the journey with you. But the state of Illinois requirement for the principal mentor of record remains exactly as outlined here. Then there's the supervisor, and this is the North Central person assigned to you. And all of our supervisors are now veterans. They've been doing this for at least a year, several of them for many years, and they're really good at walking interns through this. And it's kind of a balancing game. There are times that your supervisors could be saying, "Calm down, you'll be fine. You're good. You're not doing all of this right now, just step by step." And other times they'll be like, "Come on, you kind of forgot about the internship. You need to get going on some of these projects." And so listen to them. They know the pacing, and there are times you're going to be more alarmed than you need to be, and then there will be other times that maybe you need to kind of up your ante a bit, and they will have a strong sense of that and be able to help guide you as you move through the year. They will observe you 4 different times, and that can be in person, but rarely is these days. It can be a live video feed. It can be something you record as a video and supply to them. So those are all different ways that they will then observe and give you feedback on your leadership. And what is that observation like? Well, it is not an evaluation, it is a feedback opportunity. So you can't flunk your observation. It's a chance to kind of give you some of the insights into your own leadership style from watching you. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And so they are responsible, the supervisor, to make sure you're meeting requirements. And so sometimes you'll be just very involved in the school. You might be on committees already. You might be doing all kinds of responsibilities that your principal or other administrators or teachers have asked you to be involved in. And they, share what it is you're doing. They will very often be able to match up activities you're involved in with internship requirements. So in those situations, you may have to do a little bit more. You might need to gather some evidence and materials, and you'll reflect on the experience, but you'll find you're able to harness some of that. So, for example, if a principal was saying, "Hey, we really need some help with the drop off and the flow of the buses and everything. It's really kind of a mess. Do you have some ideas about this?" And you started working on that and seeing how other schools were doing it, and you came up with a plan. Well, you actually were doing a system analysis, which is one of the internship requirements, and that would very easily fit. You'd have to reflect on it, what you learned, what you gathered, what you recommended, but you would be able to take something that you might have been tasked with doing and turn that into a really nice piece of leadership. evidence for your portfolio and for fulfilling an internship requirement. Similarly, how many of you have been on a hiring committee? Right. So if you were asked to be on a hiring committee, that's one of the requirements. As part of the internship, you would just be reflecting on that process and gathering evidence of what was used for as a rubric or as a letter of refusal if the candidate didn't get the position and so forth. And so that makes it an internship experience, even though it might have been something you would have been involved in with otherwise. And 3 times a year, the supervisor will meet with your mentor. The beginning of the year with you to orient the mentor to all of the requirements, the middle of the year to see how things are going, and the end of the year as a final wrap up at a meeting that you'll really be leading as you share what you've learned from your experiences and you have an opportunity to talk together about your future trajectory. So that kind of spells out that role. So again, just kind of reiterating what the mentor's doing. They're going to be walking with you through weekly meetings, hopefully of about 30 minutes. They're going to sign off on all of your projects at the end, and they're going to be meeting with that supervisor to get oriented and to check in at the middle of the year as well. Your supervisor will offer a seminar to you and any other interns that they're assigned once a month and then do one-on-one meetings with you at least once a month as well. They're going to make sure that you're meeting all criteria, and then they'll do 4 observations, one in the summer, two in the fall, and one in the spring if things go as planned. So, what kinds of observations? I mentioned they're not evaluations. Anything that allows us to give you feedback. So, you might be doing a parent presentation. Perhaps you want to show how you're conducting your encouraging parental involvement through your curriculum night or parent night presentations and materials that you've devised for that. That might give us an opportunity to see how you interact with parents and give you feedback. Even though that's not a role that's outside of a classroom teacher role, it still is an opportunity to observe you with a group of stakeholders. It could be you leading a committee meeting. It could be you doing a post-observation conference because you're going to observe a teacher and have a conference with them afterwards. You might be observing that. It can even be your meeting with your mentor so that we can see how you collaborate with your mentor and how you talk with them about what your needs and demands are and how you respond to their feedback. All kinds of opportunities for observations, and your supervisor will help give you suggestions throughout the year. But things you're already involved in that are different types of ways of you showing your gifts and your skills is ideal because then we can give you different kinds of feedback. And it's just a really nice chance to be able to talk about, what did you think when I did this or when I did that? I was nervous. Could you tell I was nervous? That those are nice conversations that you get to have without it being evaluative. So this is an overview of all of the requirements for the internship, and this can be a little bit overwhelming. So don't be, I hope that it doesn't intimidate you too much. It is already on the left side talking about that supervision training that I spoke of and how December 10th and 11th we have one scheduled, and there's a link to the registration. We work that out at a discount. It's usually 425, I think, or 400 for that. And so we have a slight discount for North Central students who sign up for that. But it's also a chance for you to know some of the other people that are in the training, because it can be people from your own cohort that might be signing up for it. Again, not required to take it through us. We aren't getting a cut in any way. We're just doing that as a service. But the Illinois Principals Association and other ROEs often offer the training, and it's perfectly fine to go through the training with them. And we will also schedule one for next summer if that works better in your schedule. But if you think it might be interested in doing that, that's a way to front load that particular training and have that done. And we do have the instructor we've been contracting with through the ROE has a very high success rate. We've had a very high success rate of students who take that uh, who I can't think really of too many candidates that have not passed that the very first time that they've taken that after the supervision training. And then over on the right side, you can see that principal exam and targeting spring of 2027 for that. And for the internship, you have to take the exam. You don't have to have passed it. But of course, you want to pass it, both of those exams, in order to meet licensure requirements. But at least you know just taking it fulfills the internship requirement.
Dr.
And
Kane, we have a question in the chat about, I think it's Edwin is asking about the supervision training. He's asking about like the time they take place.
yeah, it's online. So it's via Zoom and it's pretty much full days during the day. So it does require that you would be getting, personal day or permission to get release time to be able to do that. I don't have the exact hours, but I would be guessing someplace like 9 to 3. It is on the link, and I know that a copy of the slides are in your Canvas, so you should be able to link it accordingly. Great. Sorry I missed that question. Thanks very much, Dr. Spellman, for keeping me on task there. And for the principal exam, we have a really good pass rate for 195. 196 has been a little bit more problematic. And so we're working on getting additional support materials for that. We still have a high pass rate, higher than the state average, but I do want to be honest that it's not like a sure thing in terms of passing that at doing the practice test is really beneficial and making sure that you don't take it for granted the night before that. A good night's sleep and all of those other things to be ready for it. All right, so then let's just talk about the internship projects. I want you to just be clear that you have an entire year to do these internship projects. And so you will find many of these things just naturally are things you're involved in some respect. And we just are through the internship, you're required to target that involvement and reflect on it. But that it will unfold rather naturally. So the first thing is the school improvement project. So the state wants to know that you are aware of school improvement planning. And if your school doesn't call it SIP, they might just have goals for the year, but there's not a school that's not trying to improve every year. And so you might have a SIP committee, you might have a different name for it. Maybe your leadership team works on goals, but you want to somehow be involved in that. It does not mean you have to be on the senior team. It could be that you're part of a group that's meeting one of the goals rather than the entire overseeing the entire SIP plan. It can be at any level, but you're definitely targeting school improvement. You want to show you're aware of how that school improvement goal or that school improvement plan aligns to the schools and district's mission. You want to show that you know how to crunch data. Data isn't just numbers, it could be qualitative data, like your 5 essential survey or your culture surveys. Can also be some of the quantitative data, but so too can interviewing students and faculty to do like informal focus groups as part of that. But you want to show you know how to do data analysis. You want to show that you know how to have an action plan to achieve the goal. And how do you evaluate how successful the plan was enacted so that you can also assess what the goals for the following year should be, how they should be modified, or where it should go next. So all of that over the course of a year happens rather naturally in buildings. You'll want to make sure that you're collecting those experiences throughout the year. The second area is personnel, and it's really broken into three distinct things. One is the hiring, and as I mentioned, you'll want to be a part of a hiring process. So that's something that you might have a chance next summer to do. It might be something that you're involved in the fall if there's an unexpected leave, like somebody ends up having a FMLA leave or maternity leave or paternity leave. But it might also be something you're doing in the spring as the hiring gets started for the following year. but you do want to be on a hiring project and you'll be collecting different artifacts as part of that. In my class, you're going to be learning how to be a part of a good hiring process and collecting some artifacts that'll serve you. That's the 535 class you take as of January. Also, in the personnel side is being able to evaluate individuals, to observe them, to complete the evaluation, and to do a post-observation conference. And this is where we're saying, hey, you want to get the supervision training done before you do that project. And so that's why we want you to front load it either in the summer or here in December, so you have plenty of time in the fall and in the spring to get that observation done. Again, in the class you're taking with me, we're going to practice some of those principles and you'll be all set on how to do a good observation and have a good post-observation conference. But the supervision training really helps you know how to fill out the Danielson kinds of ratings that need to be a part of that documentation. And third in that personnel is professional development planning. And again, that work is embedded in the class that you're going to be taking next with me. The field project three is systems operations and management. And the very first class that you take during the internship, which is this summer, is going to be focused on operations and management. So again, you have a class that's definitely supporting you on the different things in this project. But it really involves learning about budget and how that's implemented in your particular district or school. And it has to do with systems analysis, looking at learning systems and operational systems and knowing how to analyze them and make recommendations for improvement. So I gave you an example already. If you happen to be involved in the bus drop off, you'd be analyzing that system, how kids are dropped off or how they enter the building, analyzing it, coming up with recommendations. That would be an example of a project in number three. Number four is focusing on student populations like special ed, early childhood, and English learners, making sure that you know how to make accommodations to meet the needs of all students. And so there's some different projects. One example is doing a cultural audit where you walk through a building, assessing what the messaging is in terms of posts and pictures and language for students of all different cultures. And that could even be done in a different building. It doesn't have to be done in your home building and can be an interesting thing for you to do that benefits another building. And finally, we have Field Project is really a hallmark of North Central's program. And that is that we know you can't walk into a school building and expect to lead and make a difference without assessing where the school culture is at and figuring out how to positively impact that. That is really what creates a culture of character where every individual feels seen and valued and called to be their best selves, the individuals of character. And so this field project is just designed to have you do exactly that, to figure out the building that you're in, how do you assess it? How do you determine the pebble that will be the ripples in the pond? What will be the tail that wags the dog? What is it that you can focus on that will have that greater impact on your school? And what's an action plan for that? And how is that well informed by the work that you'll be doing in this class with Dr. Spellman and in your subsequent classes about how to build a culture of character? So that project's more uniquely North Central, but I think that you will quickly see just how important that is to you as a leader walking into a new role to know how to have impact. And then the residency, as I mentioned briefly, that's a 2-week leadership immersion experience in the summer. Just as you, when you are studying to become educators, might know that going into a school a couple hours a day is not the same as student teaching or moving into a full-time role. And so we want you to get a bit of that immersion and see what leaders are doing in the summer that is and kind of what the day is like. Just as teachers learn that you don't get to go to the bathroom or whatever that might be, you will find out what a leader's day is, and how that can be hijacked by different experiences. So it's something that you'll work out with your supervisor who you're doing that with. If you can't do 2 weeks full time, and when I say full time, it's whatever the principal's schedule is during the summer, which is often modified hours for 2 weeks. But you can, if you're teaching summer school in the morning and you're going to be doing things differently, maybe 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week with one principal, 1 week with another. There's all kinds of ways that that can be worked out so we can have those conversations. And in the middle is again saying, hey, this is a year-long experience. The state of Illinois wants you to get experiences at every grade level because your licensure will be PK 12. So you are expected to get an early childhood experience, an elementary experience, a middle school experience, and a secondary experience. That's how we interpret the PK 12. We do it by those chunks. So when you're doing any of these projects, you could be doing it at a different building to get that experience. Or, as it says, 80% of it is leadership, but 20% could be participation. So you could go and observe an early childhood parent night as part of your early childhood experience, or go to a high school if you're at a middle school, working with the transition experience from middle school to high school, and that could be part of that secondary. There's all kinds of different ways you can get those experiences that could be unique and not an internship requirement. But things like the cultures audit that I mentioned, you could go to a different grade level building on a day when you have off or an early dismissal or an opportunity to get into those buildings, and you could do that as well on one of your projects at those sites. And that's it. I mean, I know that's a lot to throw at you, but that is all of the requirements for the internship. We end up sharing with your mentor an orientation where we give them a very similar document. We kind of suggest to them that they call you an administrative intern so people know why you have a seat at the table. We explain to them their requirements of what they should be doing for you and what the supervisor will be doing. And we make it really clear that they should be willing to meet with you weekly, even though we know sometimes those meetings will get canceled or abbreviated. But we want to make sure that you've got somebody committed to you. And that is one of the reasons why when you applied to the program, we did ask for an administrative letter. It was to try to cue someone that they were making a commitment to you and would be supporting your growth. We do have an internship guidebook that you can tuck under your pillow and cuddle up with at night, which gives you all of this kinds of information. So know that there are plenty of resources available. And this is just an example of a document that is going to be shared with you with much more detail when you get closer to the internship. But it takes all of the requirements and it kind of says, hey, this semester, and this one is not set up the way yours goes summer, spring, and fall, but this one, it was for an intern that was starting in the spring. But it would say, hey, what are the projects we think you'd get done in the spring? These are the ones we think you'll likely do in the summer. These are the ones you would likely do in the fall. And we kind of list them by the semesters of your internship so that you can see how you're going to tackle all these projects in a way that's kind of chunked and makes sense with the school year. So you'll get this sheet. And in fact, when you get it, it's going to look very much like this, where there's a way for you to use the hyperlink to upload your document for your supervisor to review it. And then you can click ready to review and they know to look at it. If they have revisions, they'll click revisions requested, or they might click ready for upload and it's completely done and ready to go up into your portfolio, similar to the way that you uploaded your phase one documents into your portfolio. The process is rather seamless. There's a certain number of projects you get done each semester. All of that is really kind of spelled out. and chunked in a way that makes this manageable. This document itself can look a little overwhelming when you first get it if you think you're doing all of it at once, but they'll walk you through how you just need so many each semester and it's really staged so it can meet your own unique requirements. And there's a template. We had sometimes where individuals were writing really a lot in terms of talking about an experience they had, and then others really brief. And so we tried to really make it easier so that you're not having to write a big long essay with transitions. You instead could be responding to the different requirements as prompts. So is it by no means are these templates intended to be just a Q&A, like I answer the question, yes or no. They're prompts to get you writing, but they also really focus like, hey, like for example, in the residency, describe the activities and then what were some lessons learned from the experience. You can see then like, okay, I don't need to write about everything. I just need to share the major activities and some of the lessons that I learned. And so it just through those templates makes it very clear what do I need to submit for these different requirements. So going back to that previous document that we were just looking at, you can see that, whoops, maybe I won't go back. We'll go forward. I'm sorry. Don't know what my technical difficulties are today. But when you're on that document, it gives you that opportunity to determine whether or not that particular where your progress is on each of those individual things. And this is just, it should look familiar. This is your showcase portfolio that you have an entire section. NELP 8 is just the internship. So where in your portfolio will all these things go? They'll fulfill everything in NELP 8. So you don't have to worry about NELP 8 until the internship starts, but that's going to be your home where all these documents end up being. And as I mentioned, somebody will walk you through that whole process. So now's a good time for me to stop and get some questions from you.
That was such a thorough presentation, Dr. King. I appreciate it. I have winter brain fog, so
I know, I know
um,
that I totally feel like most of the people I know coming out of Thanksgiving break are like, where's the next break? Like,
I
where,
already started the countdown. Yes.
yeah, just totally limping our way through these next few weeks of school so you can get to your next break. So this is a lot. I'm glad you found it thorough, but also I do want to stress if you just felt like you got an understanding of what lies ahead, some general idea, but you're a little fuzzy on the details, then great. You're right where I need you to be. You don't need to be clear on all those details, but I just wanted to give you enough of the details that you know that this is a very organized group. I could tell from your phase 2 presentations. And so I did want to make sure that you at least know there'll be plenty of detail available to flesh it all out for you when you do get started on that journey, but nothing you need to be worried about right now. So, Angelica, were you going to share anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right.
So the PowerPoint presentation that Dr. King prepared is in our Canvas course for week 8 under the presentation area. And I believe, Dr. King, there's usually a kickstart before they start the internship in spring. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the jumpstart for you will be that you'll finish your semester of classes that you have. You'll have the 8 weeks with me and 8 weeks with your school home community class. And the week after your last class, on the same night that you usually have class, they'll do the jumpstart to get you introduced to the internship. And that's when that will usually be the first week of May for you. And it'll give you a chance to schedule in May or June the mentor orientation with your supervisor, where they can do all the sharing of all the requirements. But your jumpstart session will go into this in much more detail, and you'll meet your supervisor, who will be your friend on the journey. Go ahead, Lori.
I have a quick question. I'm not sure if I missed it. For the evaluation training, is that the same thing as the supervision training?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I used different terms for that just to confuse you. So good catch. Yes, that is the same. The what it's actually called is the teacher evaluation training because you're learning how to evaluate teachers as part of that. And but it's very often I end up nicknaming it the supervision. So
That's okay. Thank you.
sure, Megan.
Do we still get the discount if we do it in the summer? Like, is it
Yes.
still through North?
If
Okay,
if
awesome.
you do it through the group, and for some reason, normally they've already scheduled the summer with me. So so actually, this is a good reminder for me to call them to just find out if they're a little behind on scheduling that or to assure that we still have this relationship that they'll offer us that discount. But you'll also find on the Illinois Principal Association site, and I have these links I put on Canvas for you for these other places if you want them. They offer it every month, though they'll usually sell out ahead of time for certain months. So if you want to register for that, they will charge more, but they do give you a free membership to the Illinois Principals Association with it. So they have their own little caveat. But most of our candidates end up taking it through the discounted rate that we offer. So yeah, good questions. I'm assuming that none of you are interested in next week, but if you are, go ahead and email me and I'll make sure I send it to you directly. But I'm confident that you probably had other plans. Anyone else?
If I may add, for those of you that are pipeline scholars, we do receive a stipend and the new teacher training. Yeah.
Go ahead and finish that for me. I'm assuming from
The,
our other
yeah,
pipeline scholars that
new
you
teacher
get that
training is
reimbursed,
covered.
right? Yeah,
And yeah, it was paid for. I did it last month and like you mentioned, it wasn't that bad
that's
if you
great.
pay attention. Yeah.
And we did, and that's good. Congratulations for already getting that done. Sometimes some of the pipeline scholars, they have to check to make sure which year they had it in the budget for. So in the worst case scenario was they took it and then got reimbursed rather than it being given to them up front. But those are the kind of details you can work out directly with the funder. Go ahead, Raphael.
I just want to make sure that I understood. So for the summer internship, we can do that with like the director of ESY, and then for fall and spring, we can do that with our normal principal if they're our mentor, correct?
Yeah, so your mentor principal is your mentor principal for the entire thing, but the actual residency requirement, or really any of the other requirements, can be done with other administrators with your principal mentor's permission and your supervisor's permission. So that residency requirement of 2 weeks, there are times, for example, somebody is working with a summer school director, and the principal thinks that's a great idea, and you are getting your experience that way, and that works out fine. But the principal mentor is still your principal mentor. They're just not the one who you're working with on the residency in that case.
And if the director isn't a principal normally, but they have like the principal licensure, is that okay?
Yes. So the only thing that's requiring that 2 years of experience as a principal is the role principal mentor who will sign off on all your projects. But that principal mentor might say, "Hey, I want you to go work with the budget director on the budget because I don't do much with it." That principal mentor might think it'd be great for you to work with the assistant principal who does most of the professional development work for when you're going to create a professional development plan. So they're always the principal mentor, but it does not mean all of the projects have to be done directly with that person. Good question. Glad you brought that up.
Sorry, I have another question. Kind of going off of that question. So, would it be possible if I could do instead of a like a principal mentor, like a director of like let's just say like pre-K? mentor, if they have their admin, like would that qualify or would it have to be a school principal?
Yeah, and so it has to be somebody with the principal licensure,
Okay.
and they would be somebody who would be considered to have 2 years of principal
Yeah.
experience.
Okay.
There are situations where just the name of the principal is headmaster or
Okay.
director, and so in those situations, we look at that to say, is that job description really principal? And it required a principal endorsement, and then we treat it as a synonym.
Okay.
In other cases, when there is a principal and their director and it's not the same thing, then we are wanting to make sure that that person had the 2 years of principal experience.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, good question. Let's pretend, though, just for the sake of this argument, that there is a principal and there's a director of who's really working so almost like a principal with early childhood, but there is a principal who's over that director. In that case, we would have the principal mentor be your principal, the principal be your principal mentor, your mentor of record. But you might do most of your weekly meetings with the director of that particular area with the principal mentor's permission. But we'd still want you seeing that principal mentor at least once a month. And so we'd create a collaborative experience that really meets the unique situation that you're in. There are always possibilities. We had, for example, Park River Forest High School is a one district high school, and it's so huge that, in fact, the principal is more like a superintendent in some respects. So that principal mentor met with all of the interns once a month, but we had an administrator who was working much more closely with the candidates on a weekly basis so that they got the kind of mentorship we wanted to make sure they would get. But we still made sure they were with that principal mentor. So we'll always figure out an arrangement for your situation. Great
Thank you.
questions. Anyone else? Yeah, Raphael.
Sorry, ironically I just got a text from my student support services asking if I want to participate in a hiring interview. Are there any specific things that we need to like record for this for the future, like suggestions?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't really start the internship early.
Yeah.
So, but being a part of this will be great. Um, I can specifically give you more information just so you have an idea, but I'll rattle off quickly, so I don't want you to feel like you have to remember all this. But some of the things that they'll be looking at is that if a rubric is used with the questions, what the questions are, the letter of refusal or rejection is the ruder way to put it. How that process went. And we require more in my class, but I think those are the major artifacts as I'm thinking about it. Um, and you'll do a reflection on the process.
Thanks.
Mhm. I'm glad you're getting that opportunity. That'll be great. Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you. Let me tell you now that that we'll be off to the races when we start together in January, but that I don't have you doing pre-work ahead of time. I'll open the syllabus and Canvas for those of you who want to cozy up with it. But my intention really is that we'll walk through it together during that 8 weeks, and that you should take the break and recharge and so forth. But you can always, if you want to get ahead, do some readings in the textbook without the pressure. We do use the textbook in case you're wondering. We will read that. We read the text in the first 4 weeks. Most of the chapters, only a couple do we skip, and the last 4 weeks we use we'll have you choose something that's a deeper dive. But my expectation is not that you're doing assignments over break. So, all right. All right, and reach out if you've got questions. I enjoy the contact. So thank you for this time, Dr. Spellman, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. King. And if we have any other questions, we'll send them along.
All right, and I need to deliver the message that for the t-shirt day tomorrow, your t-shirt has been placed in the mailbox, so you know where to find it.
I'll be dressed and ready. Okay.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye-bye.
Okay. I think we're all here.